האם זה באמת סגולה בדוקה? הסגולה ללמוד בזה?
Erev Tov, good evening. Dobra V'Yetzer. We are in the Zera Shimshon on Parsha, double Parsha this week, Tazria Metzora. The particular piece that we're going to look at is on the second Parsha, Parshas Metzora, and it's Os Gimel, section 3. It's a very small section, but one that really packs a punch in terms of its significance and its importance. Before we begin, we're going to just make a point about the double Parsha and what Chazal say about Tzara'as. And then we're going to look at two psukim from Sefer Iyov, which is a little off the beaten path. We don't normally get to have the merit to talk about Sefer Iyov. But first, let's say the following: the two parshos of Tazria and Metzora devote a tremendous amount of their psukim, of their content, to the issue of tzara'as, which was a blemish that could appear on a person's skin. That was the classical case of tzara'as, would be skin blemishes, a man or a woman, but it could also appear on the walls of a person's home and could appear on a person's clothing, their begodim. And the Torah talks about all of those possibilities and also how the Kohen who would be called in could identify whether or not what he was looking at was actually tzara'as or whether or not it was some other type of blemish. After all, a person could have all different types of skin conditions and blemishes and not necessarily be this kind of spiritually related condition that we call tsaras, and the Torah talks about and gives us special ways that it needed to be handled and dealt with, and you see all of that in this double parsha. So Chazal and the Gemara bring down 7 causes for tsaras. Most people, if you were to ask them, like let's say you just stop a stranger on the street and you say, what causes tzara'as? The person 9 out of 10 times is going to say, oh, that's easy. It's lashon hara, gossip, evil speech about other people. And that is true, but that's only one of the 7 transgressions, one of the 7 types of actions that can lead to tsaras, that can bring about tsaras. This section, this piece in the Zera Shimshon is going to deal with another one of the 7 causes of tsaras, and it is gasus haruach, arrogance, and haughtiness, and that can lead to tsaras as well, according to Chazal and the Gemara. So please keep that in mind as we learn this piece, that tsaras can be brought about through arrogance and haughtiness, and we'll see how the Zera Shimshon discusses that. But before we do, let's take a look at 2 psukim from Sefer Iyov. This is Perek Chaf, psukim Vav and Zion. Im ya'ale lashamayim si'o. If a person's eminence reaches up to the heavens, if a person is such a special, extraordinary, unique person that his eminence reaches up to Shamayim, Virosho la'ov yagia, and his head reaches up to the clouds, to the mists, Kigelelo lanetzach yoved, this person will perish forever like his own excrement. Ro of Yomru, and those who see him will say, Ayo, where is he? We're going to see that these 2 psukim in Iyov are talking about the tremendous fall, the cataclysmic fall that can happen even to truly great, extraordinary individuals if they develop haughtiness and what we say in Hebrew, gaiva. If they develop arrogance and haughtiness, then even if they're great people, they can experience a tremendous fall from those lofty heights that they were on before. And we'll see how tzara'as fits into that as we learn this piece. Zera Shimshon, Parsha Metzora, section Gimel, section 3. Medrash Rabbah. It says in the Medrash Rabbah, Dover Acher, another explanation on the Zos Tiyeh Torah Metzora, on the pasuk of this is the law of the Metzora. A Metzora is a person with tzara'as, with this physical slash spiritual skin condition called tzara'as. Hadahu dichsiv. So this pasuk that refers to a person who is struck with tzara'as, this pasuk can be connected to the psukim in Eov that we read. Im ya'aleh lashamayim sio, if a person's eminence reaches up to shamayim, v'rosho la'ov yagia, and the person's head touches the clouds. So the Medrash says, co, what does it mean when it talks about his eminence? L'roma, reaches up to great heights. We're talking about a person, again, whose uniqueness, their accomplishments, their capabilities reach up to the greatest heights. La'ov, what does it mean that the person's head reaches up to the mists? La'anana, to the clouds. It's as if the person can touch the clouds. It's such a great, special person. Kigalalo lanetzach yovad. This person will perish and be lost like his own excrement. The Medrash comments on those words, Ma gilolim halolu mizohamin. Just like a person's excrement is repulsive, afhu mizoham. Even this great special person can become repulsive. Ro'av yomru ayo. The ones who see this person after his fall and after he is struck with tzara'as, hamunle, they can look at him velo makirin be, but they won't recognize him. The person will become unrecognizable. Shekain ksiv, so it's written, bere'e Eov, regarding Eov's friends. In the book of Eov, this great righteous man Eov is struck with terrible, terrible suffering, and his friends come to visit him and console him. So it says about his friends, Vayisu eseinehem merachok, they lifted up their eyes from a distance, velo hikiruhu, and they did not recognize him, meaning even though they knew him so well and were close, his closest friends and colleagues, nonetheless, they no longer recognized him because of the terrible suffering that had befallen Eov. Ad kan Lashono, until here is a quote from the Medrash Rabbah. So the Zera Shimshon says, V'hu tamuha, this excerpt from the Medrash Rabbah is very baffling. Lama nokat shtei hagbahos. Why did it talk about two high levels? L'roma, it said that this person's eminence reached up to a very high place. In the pasuk itself, it said l'shamayim, to the heavens, v'la'anana, and to the clouds. So this person's eminence reached up to shamayim, and this person's head, as it were, reached up to the clouds. The Zera Shimshon says, why did the psukim and the Medrash Rabbah's comments on the psukim talk about two different high levels? In other words, wouldn't it be enough to say the person's eminence reached Shamayim? Why do you have to also say his head reached up to the clouds, or say his head reached up to the clouds and leave out the reference to his eminence? Why do you need two expressions of this person's specialness and uniqueness reaching up to the highest lofty heights? Uma inyan of ve'anan lechan. And what is the connection between mists and clouds here? Why are we specifically talking about mists and clouds in terms of height, in terms of the great heights that this person that this person attained. Next paragraph. V'yesh lomar de'amrinan beperek vav de psachim. We can say, and the Zera Shimshon, of course, as he does, is going to give us some quotes to put that he will build and develop to answer his questions. We can say that Chazal teach us, our sages teach us in the 6th chapter of Maseches Psachim. Omer Rev Yehuda Omer Rav, Kol HaMisyaher. Every person who becomes arrogant, Im Chacham Hu, if he is a wise person, Chachmoso Mistalekes Mimenu. His wisdom will depart from him. Even if a person is a brilliant person, a genius, a tremendously knowledgeable person, and this means even in Torah knowledge, his wisdom, his Torah knowledge will depart from him if he becomes arrogant and haughty. V'im navihu, and if a person is a prophet, not just a chacham, but a prophet, a person who Hashem has spoken with, has communicated with, nivu also mistalekes mimenu. This person's prophecy, this person's ability and capacity for Hashem to communicate with him, or as we'll see with her, will depart. Me Hillel umi devora. And the Gemara proves this from bringing examples that have to do with the giant sage Hillel, the famous Hillel, and from the prophetess Devora, who, of course, we learn about in Navi, in the books of Navi. So the Gemara explains, this is, it's not quoted here, but it's a Gemara in Maseches Shabbos, and the Gemara explains these references, and it says that Hillel, the great Torah sage, once became arrogant during a dispute he was having with other chachamim, with other great Torah scholars, and because of that, he lost his wisdom, he lost his Torah knowledge, and because of that moment of haughtiness and of arrogance, of course, it was only temporary. Umi Devora, and Devora, the Neviah, the prophetess, who was also a great judge of the Jewish people, a great leader of the Jewish people in her time. She also became haughty at a certain time, a certain moment, and lost her ability to receive communications from Hashem, to receive nevuah, to receive prophetic visions from Hashem. So the Gemara proves to us that even people on the greatest heights, like a chacham, in terms of chachma, a person like Hillel, and in terms of nevuah, a person like Devora, even they, when they experienced haughtiness, either lost the chachma, lost the knowledge, the wisdom, like Hillel, or lost the nevuah, the prophetic power, like Devora. Next paragraph. V'lirmos al elu hashnayim, to hint to these two areas, chachma and nevuah, wisdom and prophecy, amar shtei hagbahos. That's why the Psukim and Eov and the Medrash Rabbah talked about two heights that a person could reach. The im yaleh l'shamayim sio, when the pasuk says if a person's eminence could rise to the heavens, sio hu lashon nesius v'romamus. The word sio is a term that denotes leadership and great authority. K'moshe Pirush Radak, as the great commentary Radak, Rabbeinu David Kimchi says, B'shoresh Naso, on the section where he explains the root word nun sin aleph. On that explanation, he talks about what sio, which is connected to this root, this shoresh of nun sin aleph. He talks about how it means leadership and authority. V'zeha nesius bolo, and this leadership comes to a person machmas hachokma, because of the wisdom that the person has. Why is a nasi, why is a prince or a leader elected, appointed to his position? Because of his chokhmah, because of his knowledge and his wisdom. Ubeperek Hey, and in the 5th chapter of Meseches Eruvin Amrinon, we say, Lo bashamayim hi. The Torah comments that the Torah is not in Shamayim. It's not in heaven. It was given to mankind, and it's no longer in Shamayim. And there are many different lessons and ideas that that Chazal, that our sages learned from this phrase, Lo bashamayim hi. It's not in Shamayim. Lo timotze begase haruach. And one of those lessons is that Torah knowledge will not stay and will not remain with people who are arrogant and haughty. Virosh, next paragraph, Virosho la'av yagia. And so the first reference about this person's eminence reaching up to Shamayim, that referred to a person's chachma, a person's great Torah knowledge. And even that can be lost or can depart from the person because of haughtiness. And then the next reference, Virosho la'av yagia, the person's head reaches the clouds, la'anona, it reaches all the way up to the clouds. Metaphorically, Zoha Nevuah, this is a reference to a person's prophetic gifts, Shebo'a la'adam al yedei anon, which come to a person through a cloud. Kedichsiv, as the pasuk says, Hine anochi ba'elecha, Hashem said to Moshe, behold, I will come to you, be'av ha'anan, and the mists are in the thickness of the cloud. In another pasuk, Moshe Allah be'anan, Moshe went up, he ascended into the cloud. So we see that clouds, reaching the clouds, touching the clouds, is a reference to Nevuah. And we see that clearly with Moshe Rabbeinu. He ascended to the clouds, he ascended to a situation in which Hashem communicated to him through Nevuah, through prophecy. Kegalalo lanetzach v'chule. So a person who had reached these great heights, either in Chachma or in Nevuah, what does it mean that they will become like their own excrement, that they'll reach such a terrible low level that they can be compared to excrement? Im yeh gava, if the person develops haughtiness, yiyu mizohamim kemo hagalal, then that person will become disgusting and repulsive like dung, even though the person was previously such a great person, either in Chachma or Nevuah. Sheyiyeh nilke b'tzaras. How will the person become so repulsive? Because this person, this arrogant person, this arrogant individual will be struck with tzaras, b'mumim geluyim lakol, with blemishes that are revealed to everyone. When a person has tzaras, it's not something that can be kept quiet or be kept private. Tzaras appears on the person's skin and people will know about it. Chamun be velo makirin yase od. And what did it mean that they'll look at this person and they will no longer recognize him? Lo b'shem chacham velo b'shem navi. It means that even though this person of great attainments was known widely, had renown as a chacham or a navi, now this person will not be recognized, not as a chacham and not as a navi. Lefisha nisgale kilono umumo, because his disgrace will be revealed and his blemishes will be revealed, his flaws. She'im hayayore shamayim. Because if this person was a God-fearing person and was not haughty and arrogant, then Hashem would bring to this God-fearing, humble person any type of punishments that might be necessary, bitzina, and privacy, uvechavod, and in an honorable way. What the Zera Shimshon is saying here at the end is that is that the reason the haughty, arrogant person is struck with tsaras is to demonstrate, is a way for Hashem to demonstrate to others, this person didn't just do something wrong. A person, a great chacham, a great navi can make a mistake, can do an avera. No human being is perfect. But then the person, as long as he or she remained humble and remained God-fearing, then the person would be punished if a punishment was necessary, privately, in a manner that would be considered honorable from Hashem to that person. However, if we're talking, as we are, about individuals who became haughty and arrogant, then Hashem strikes them with tsaras, which becomes known to others and makes them repulsive, and people recoil from them. People no longer view them. People can see this person who was struck with tsaras because of his spiritual failings and his haughtiness and his arrogance. This person can no longer be viewed as a chacham, a Torah scholar, and can no longer be viewed as a navi, as a person with the prophetic gifts. So as I mentioned in the beginning, as we see from this piece, even though it's very short, it packs a very powerful punch, because in our world especially, it has become almost a credit to a person if he's haughty and arrogant and thinks very highly of himself. This is considered a good thing in many circles. But the Zera Shimshon here is reminding us about the Torah's approach, that haughtiness and arrogance are terrible, terrible flaws, and they can, God forbid, chas v'shalom, they can lead to even the greatest individuals having terrible falls and punishments because of the haughtiness and the arrogance. And it can even lead a chacham or a navi to lose their chachma or lose their nevuah, which is almost unimaginable, but it can happen because of the haughtiness and arrogance that a person can develop. So it's a tremendous lesson to us, a Musar Haskel, to always strive, to try. It's not easy, but to try to be humble, to try and not ever develop any kind of haughtiness or arrogance. And if we feel it at some point, to recall the Torah's insistence of what a bad midah, what a bad character trait, what a negative character trait it is to have gasus haruach, to have arrogance or haughtiness in any way. Yasher koch for joining in the learning of the Zera Shimshon on this week's double parsha. We look forward to learning again together next week.